Tama's childhood flashed before her father training Leon, forcing the gentle boy into combat while dismissing her as kitchen material. Now standing against Kaibara, she swore to prove herself. Kaibara grinned, knowing she'd crumble once he used her father as bait. The demon's corpse flew at her, then lightning struck, hurling her into the wall. The pain was familiar, her father's magic. Kaibara cackled. His gluttony allowed him to steal abilities through taste, and he'd be feasting on her next. Meanwhile, Sensei and his crew cracked open the queen's old dresser, unearthing a hidden book. Back in the throne room, Kaibara toyed with Tama, battering her with lightning and kicks, reveling in her suffering. Memories of Leon's training surged through her, pushing her back to her feet. Kaibara, amused, reminisced about his past, torturing maids, beating homeless men, escaping consequences, until Truck-Con launched him into this world. Laughing, he vowed to devour everything. Sensei stepped in, freezing Kaibara's jaws mid-sentence. As Kaibara struggled, Sensei mocked his backstory, calling it worse than shadow hunters. Nira and Ennet arrived, declaring divine punishment. Furious, Kaibara unleashed a storm, sending them sprawling. Sensei handed Tama a stack of glowing pages, their magic wrapping around her. Kaibara scoffed, promising a gruesome end. But as golden light flared from Tama, the divine beast's crest seared into her skin. She stood, unshaken. Kaibara sneered. This wasn't an Anine with a clean victory. He'd make sure she died screaming. Sensei lit a cigarette, smirking. Maybe Kaibara was in for a shock. Tama moved first, dodging lightning, her fist slamming into Kaibara's jaw. A headbutt followed, sending him stumbling. Enraged, she prepared a final strike, but Tama's 100 fangs tore through him. Blood pooled beneath him. The fight was over. Or so they thought. Kaibara's corpse twisted, morphing into a monstrous centipede demon. He had devoured the Demon King's flesh, evolving into something far worse. Before anyone could react, a blade flashed. Kaibara's head rolled. Enter Waldelia, daughter of the previous Demon King. She stared at his twitching remains, rage burning in her eyes. Kaibara, recognizing her, sneered, bragging about eating her father. Waldelia's magic flared. A devastating beam obliterated Kaibara, leaving nothing behind but a castle-sized hole. Tama braced for another fight, but Sensei, ever casual, stood behind Waldelia, asking if revenge felt good. She met his gaze, then vanished atop her dragon, promising to kill him next time. Weeks later, the crew prepared to leave, but Tama chose to stay. The king, seeing her untamed spirit, let her go. Overjoyed, she sprinted outside, only to find Mirror struggling with Sensei's coffin. Mirror's face lit up. She was back. Their next wild adventure was just beginning. The crew pulled up to the legendary world tree, a holy symbol that was supposed to protect the nation, but Sensei's face said otherwise. Right next to it sat a small village, once peaceful, but now a wild, chaotic casino town. The villagers, who used to mind their own business, were now throwing hands over nonsense. He was all set to explain, but Annette shut that down real quick. She suggested they swing by the village to pray for safe travels, but Tama wasn't about to let that dismissal slide. Sensei, ever the pessimist, told him to hurry up and drag his coffin along. But things got weird fast when they saw how much the place had changed since some otherworlders rolled in months ago. The once chill town had turned into a noisy gambling den. The mayor explained that these outsiders built the casino, and ever since they showed up, the world tree had started dying. Holding up a sickly leaf, the mayor begged them for help. Sensei, desperate for his sedation pills, asked the mayor to hook him up, but before the guy could even respond, some dude named Yamada, another otherworlder, jumped in. He claimed he wanted to save the tree. Annette was all in, but Sensei, suddenly standing straighter than usual, barely acknowledged them before disappearing like a ghost. Fully awake and disgusted by it, Sensei wandered around until he spotted smoke coming from a cave. Inside, he found a den full of addicts. Before he could get comfortable, a mysterious girl offered to take him somewhere better, a bar. She thought he was wasted, but Sensei dramatically declared he was drinking to escape his tragic life. Unimpressed, she explained how the cave people were using the world tree's leaves to numb their pain. When Sensei complained about his health keeping him awake, she offered to help him sleep with a dance. Skeptical but curious, he agreed, and for the first time in forever, he felt real peace. Meanwhile, Annette was losing it, running around looking for Sensei. Her panic hit another level when the girl carried an unconscious Sensei to the mayor's house. Furious, the mayor scolded the girl Ash, a witch notorious for siding with the otherworlders instead of fighting them. The villagers saw her as a traitor, but she made bank seducing outsiders with booze and dancing. Yamada declared she had to pay for her crimes, and the mayor practically threw himself at Yamada's feet, begging him to save the town. The next morning, Sensei was ready to dip, but Annette reminded him the fight against the otherworlders was about to pop off. Sensei, unbothered, said he never signed up for this nonsense. He just wanted the peace he found at the bar. Annette tried to stop him, but Yamada stepped in, claiming Sensei had already fallen under the witch's spell. He reassured Annette that Sensei would snap out of it once they saved the town. Back at the bar, Sensei thanked Eshi for helping him forget his past and finally get some sleep. As she warned him not to get too attached, worried she'd end up ruining him. But Sensei said that's exactly what he wanted. They toasted to their miserable lives, and Eshi shared the legend of the world tree. When its spirit descends, the weak and sick will be saved. She suggested he pray to the tree, but he caught her off guard by saying she was the one who needed saving. He pointed out how her dancing was full of sadness, leaving her speechless. Before they could dig into that, a gang of thugs stormed in, threatening a man who had lost everything gambling. One of the goons whined that the casino wasn't making enough, suggesting they move elsewhere, but the boss shut that down, planning instead to rope the nearby villagers and get them addicted connected to the World Tree's leaves. Hearing this, Eshi reminded the boss of their deal. She had paid him protection money to leave the villagers alone. The boss didn't care, ordering his crew to get the villagers hooked. When Eshi protested, he tossed her aside like trash. Sensei helped her up, telling her she wasn't a witch, she was an angel. Right then, the ground shook and part of the casino crumbled. Yamada stepped up, announcing that justice would be served, including for the so-called witch. Just as he was about to throw hands, Sensei strolled in, annoyed by all the drama. Sensei waved off Yamada's self-righteous speech, but Yamada called him a disgrace and told him to pick a side. Sensei, unimpressed, sat down and yawned. Yamada made quick work of the thugs, sending them running. Eshi thanked him, and Yamada basked in his heroic moment, thinking she'd finally changed. The villagers cheered for Yamada, then immediately turned on Eshi, calling her a traitor and demanding she leave. Yamada tried to defend her, but the mob wasn't having it. Sensei, done with her nonsense, called everyone scum. He told them Eshi had kept the town safe by keeping the real threats under control and called her the only real savior here. The crowd didn't care. Eshi sighed, apologized, and left while the villagers partied like they had won. Yamada, horrified, realized they had made a huge mistake. Sensei, unmoved, pointed out that righteousness and evil were just two sides of the same messy coin. Yamada, now questioning everything, asked if it was his fault, but Sensei said the town had chosen to throw away the only person actually looking out for them. As they left, the mayor asked Yamada to take over as the town's protector. Then, in a twisted move, the villagers decided to profit off the World Tree's leaves themselves. Horrified, Yamada listened as the mayor bragged about the money they'd make and even offered him 10% for protection. Doubt started creeping into Yamada's mind. Sensei, weighed down by his failure to save Eshi, stood in silence. Suddenly, the World Tree withered completely, its last leaves crumbling away. The mayor stood frozen, his grand plans falling apart in front of him. Then Eshi reappeared before Sensei, looking different. She thanked him for understanding her and hoped he find peace. Before fading away, she left him a bottle of sedation pills. Realizing who she really was, Sensei took the pills, closed his eyes to calm his nerves. The squad was out here, struggling in the desert heat, slapping them like a debt collector. Nurse stopped to pour some water on the magic carpet before it passed out, while Sensei cracked jokes about dying of heat stroke. Tama, already fed up, asked if they seriously had to cross this never-ending sandbox, but Anna hesitated. Yeah, it was the fastest way to the Dritten Temple, but she wasn't convinced they'd make it without turning to fried chicken. Nir, unfazed like he was on a casual evening stroll, shrugged and said he grew up in these parts. He knew how to handle the desert. Traveling in daylight was safer, he said, because monsters and bandits love to lurk at night. Too bad nobody told the bandits. Before they could even process that logic, some dudes jumped them. Toru, a flashy otherworlder, rolled up like he owned the place, demanding a toll for existing in his desert. Tama cracked his knuckles, ready to throw hands, while Anna told Sensei to hide, only to realize his coffin was hotter than the devil's sauna. Forget that. So Tama and Anna handled business, leaving the bandits flopping in the sand. Meanwhile, Sensei, half cooked from the heat, collapsed. Seeing a free hit, Toru turned to him, grinning like a shark. Nurse stepped in front, sword trembling in his hands. Toru laughed in his face, calling him out for being all bark and no bite. Then, just to be extra petty, he threatened to end Nir with some slow, painful scorpion venom. Sensei, half delirious and honestly kinda done with life, wobbled up to the scorpion like, yeah, just do it already. Toru, thinking it was a bluff, let the scorpion sting him, only for the scorpion to straight up die. Sensei groaned, complaining that he was still alive, while Toru lost his damn mind over his dead pet. Toru, seeing red, charged at Sensei, but before he could strike, a deep, blood-chilling howl echoed across the sands. Everyone paused. Toru cursed, realizing something bigger and badder was nearby. Deciding revenge could wait, he dipped. And it patched Sensei up, but Nurse sat there looking like a kicked puppy, ashamed for freezing up. Tama tried to hype him up, saying he'd get another chance, but Nerd just called himself a coward. Sensei, still half-cooked, told him nobody starts out a hero, it's about falling and getting back up. Annette, still side-eyeing the desert, told Nir to get them out of here. He led them to Wust Orphanage, his childhood home. Kathy, the woman who raised him, greeted them with open arms. Dinner was banging thanks to a mystery donor who kept the place stocked. The kids, not missing a beat, asked Nir if he had finally become a hero like he promised. Nir, not wanting to let them down, said he was in a hero's party. Technically true, Sensei was with them and he was famous, but Sensei waved it off, saying he was just a writer. The kids begged him for a story, but Kathy told him to keep it PG. Later, as the kids slept, the howl returned, way too close this time. Kathy, shaking, said it was a wolf terrorizing the area. She locked the doors and told everyone to stay put, but Sensei was built different. He went out on one of his midnight strolls and found himself smack in the middle of a bloodbath. Instead of turning back like a sane person, he decided to investigate. Back at the orphanage, Nir was knocked awake by Tama punching him in her sleep. He noticed a shadow outside the window and remembered Kathy's warning. Grabbing his sword, he stepped outside, heart pounding. He ran into a guy carrying a basket of vegetables. At first, Nir thought he was a thief, but turns out he was the mystery donor. Nir asked why he didn't just bring the food in normally. The man, looking a little guilty, said he liked watching the kids' happy faces from a distance. Yeah, it was kinda creepy, but his heart was in the right place. They sat down and talked. Nir told him about growing up there, losing his parents and wanting to be a hero. The man listened, nodding like he understood. Then he asked for some travel stories, and Nir, eager to impress, started spilling all the crazy stuff they'd been through. Sensei, lurking nearby, took note. notes, enjoying the tale. By sunrise, the man got up to leave. Nur invited him to breakfast, but he declined, saying he preferred the shadows. Sensing some sadness, Nur convinced him to hang out a little longer, and they found an oasis, gathering crops for the orphanage. Meanwhile, Sensei, sick of the kid's energy, yeeted himself back into his coffin. Later, just as Nur was starting to relax, Kathy burst in with bad news. Nate had been kidnapped by Toru's gang. They were demanding a ransom. Tama cracked her knuckles. They weren't paying a damn thing. The squad pulled up on Toru's gang, ready to throw down. While Anna and Tama handled the bandits, Nur froze. Again, before Toru could take advantage, the man appeared, dragging Nur to safety. Then, in a wild twist, he revealed himself to be an otherworlder and straight up transformed into the feared Wolf. Wolf wrecked Toru's crew, forcing Toru to drop Nate and try to run. But the man wasn't letting it slide. Fueled by rage, he went after Toru like a beast out for blood. Nur, desperate to stop the madness, stepped in and blocked the final blow. He begged the man to let it go, to not lose himself in revenge. The man, snapping out of his fury, hesitated, then backed off ashamed. Back at the orphanage, the man finally told his story. He had lost his parents too, just like Nur. He had once seen a kind boy suffer and felt powerless to help. Sensei, watching closely, noted that despite his past, the man still had a good heart. The man sighed, saying his time was up. He thanked them and disappeared, returning to Earth. As he stepped back into his world, he saw the boy from his past, Nur, all grown up. Tears fell as he realized they had met again. Over at the Demon Lord's crib, one of the 7 evil heroes finds out Cadbara got wrecked in Grun. Meanwhile, Sengoku's out in the desert catching hands with the dwarven strongholds, thinking he had it in the bag, only to get humbled real quick by their Hell's Hand allies. Gritting his teeth, he admits the so-called Wizard of Hurricanes is the real deal. Out in the dunes, chaos erupts. The dwarves ain't backing down and blood's soaking the sand. Wolf, fresh out of booze, waves off Isha's concerns, playing the priest card like it excuses him from giving orders. Isha ain't having it, snatching his collar and demanding he get his act together, cause the fallen hero's army is on their doorstep. Sighing like it's a chore, Wolf tells Doran to bait the enemy east. Doran, the absolute madman, goes charging straight in, but hey, he still leads the lizard men exactly where they need to be. Once the enemies lined up like bowling pins, Wolf unleashes a hurricane straight out of a disaster movie, shredding them apart. The fallen hero dips and Wolf shrugs, telling Isha they bagged the Galileo for today. Just as he's walking off, Isha squints, and a look, it's Sensei, spinning in the hurricane like a rag doll. Fast forward to the victory party, and everyone's feasting. Doran and Wolf get the VIP seats, trading stiff nods of respect. Doors are still side-eyeing Wolf for being an elf, but hey, a win's a win. Meanwhile, Annette's stuffing her face like she ain't seen food in weeks. Isha's confused to see her squad here, and Annette explains they got lost in the desert. Sensei, being Sensei, got yoinked by the hurricane, but don't worry, his coffin shielded him. The only problem, the thing got wrecked. Annette promises to get him a new one because apparently a guy needs a coffin on standby. Wolf mumbles an apology for nearly yeeting Sensei into oblivion, but Sensei's just mad the job didn't get finished. Somewhere in the background, Melos is drooling over Wolf's Femelos, completely smitten. Wolf's still all business explains they're smack in the middle of a war. The squad had no clue. Isha lays it out. One of the 7 fallen heroes is gunning for their nation. Tama flexes, saying she already took one out in Grun. Wolf side-eyes her, clearly not buying it, and Tama puffs up, ranting about how strong her squad is, especially Sensei. Wolf's unimpressed, already heard about it, doesn't need their help, and tells them to get lost. Tama scoffs, wondering if he's really that powerful. Isha confirms, Wolf isn't just strong, he's that guy, the Wizard of Storms, one of the best mages alive. Even the fallen heroes would struggle against him. Meanwhile, back at the Demon Lord's castle, the Dark Knight strolls in, catching side-eyes from the evil heroes who weren't expecting him to chicken out. He shrugs it off, saying he'll handle it personally tomorrow. One hero suggests letting the women take care of things. After all, they're built different. The camera zooms in on a woman's hand tied up with rope that looks real familiar. Sakshan, sitting quietly, gives the slightest nod. Back in the village, Melos is sulking after getting curved. Sensei, ever the tactless advisor, tells him to suck it up and move on, but also offers to help him track his mystery girl. They name her Femelos because creativity is dead. Turns out, Femelos is with Wolf, and surprise, surprise, the guy's a magnet for fangirls. They're all up in his space, but he brushes them off. Sensei snickers about Wolf's fan club and nudges Melos to shoot his shot. Persistence might pay off. They tail Wolf and Femelos to some old house. Wolf knocks, waits, but nobody answers. Instead of throwing a tantrum, he just nods to himself and says he'll come back after the war. Sensei watches from the shadows, realizing that even someone as untouchable as Wolf has a story. Without a word, he drags Melos away, leaving Wolf to his business. The next day, Doran gets word of another attack. Battle's kicking off. Tama jumps up, ready to throw hands, but Doran shuts that down real quick, reminding her they're just guests. Outside, Doran and Wolf get the dwarf army hyped, but things go sideways fast when a damn dragon, the Jade Dark Dragon, shows up, setting everything on fire. Wolf doesn't even flinch, ready to throw some magic at it. But the second he locks eyes with the rider, everything changes. A fallen hero, a girl. She recognizes him, calls him her old master, and snatches him up before anyone can react. Isha tries to jump in, but one hit from that girl's dark magic leaves her barely standing. The girl smirks, promises to come back and finish the job later, then dips with Wolf. Isha is still shaky, has no choice but to call a retreat. Back at the castle, she breaks the bad news. Wolf's been taken. Doran looks like the floor just disappeared under him. The castle's defenses are shot, and without Wolf, they're standing on thin ice. Meanwhile, Sensei, ever the opportunist, nudges Mellows and whispers that Femelos is probably heartbroken right now, meaning Mellows might have a chance to slide in. They hit up an old house Wolf used to visit, hoping to dig up some dirt on him. Sensei knocks, and when the door creaks open, an old lady gives them a look like she knows way more than she's letting on. Meanwhile, Wolf wakes up tied up in front of the Dritten Temple. Not his best morning. Yuriko, the fallen hero, stands there, eyes scanning the place like she's been here before. The guards notice her and rush in, but they might as well be running into a buzzsaw. She mows them down like they're nothing, then turns to Wolf, says he's the reason she got this strong, says he better stay out of her way if he wants to live. Back at the castle, Isha pieces things together. Wolf used to train otherworlders, got real into it, then suddenly stopped. Started drinking instead. Maybe it had something to do with Yuriko. Maybe not. Doesn't matter right now. What matters is getting him back. She asked Doran to send troops, but the castle's already surrounded. No help's coming. Tama steps up, volunteering the crew for the mission. Annette agrees, but then notices Sensei's missing. When he finally shows up, he's carrying the old lady from before. Annette does not take it well. Sensei's never carried her like that. Morning comes, and the team gears up. Doran apologizes for not sending troops, but Tama waves him off, especially since he hooked them up with fresh gear. Determined, they head out for the Dritten Temple. Sensei complains about the delays and his lack of equipment. Doran tells him to quit whining. Sensei tells him to hurry the hell up. Isha cuts them both off. Wolf's life is on the line. Then comes the problem, how to get across the desert without passing out from exhaustion. That's when Tora pops out of the sand like a damn cryptid. Tama immediately clocks him as a problem, but he swears he's different now. Says Nurse saved him. Says he's a daily bus driver and an orphanage guard at night. Makes no damn sense. Before anyone can argue, he turns a desert tiger into a tiger bus. They get on. Sensei tries to hop in too, but the bus kicks him out like bad credit. His scorpion cycle is wrecked. He's furious. He's left behind. Sitting in the dust, Sensei feels like trash. Useless. But then the old lady steps up, serious as hell. Says she needs his help getting to Wolf, and for once, Sensei doesn't crack a joke. He sees it in her eyes. She cares. That's all it takes. He's in, no matter what it costs. Annette and the crew pulled up to the Dritten Temple, already knowing things were bad, but damn, it was worse than expected. Yuriko had already wrecked the place, and the priests were sprawled out looking half dead. Annette tried to help, but Isha yanked her back, warning her not to touch them. Yuriko's magic was still clinging to them like a bad smell. Inside, Wolf was tied up near the throne, looking rough, but Yuriko wasn't about to let them swoop in and save him. With a snap of her fingers, skeletons popped up like bad memories, ready to throw hands. Wolf begged her to stop, but she just shot him a look, reminding him that he was the one who taught her to never hesitate in front of an enemy. The skeletons came in swinging. Annette blocked with her shield. Isha fired off magic, but the damn things just wouldn't stay down. No matter how many times they got blasted apart, they reassembled like a bad sequel. Isha side-eyed Wolf, trying to figure out how the hell things got this messy. If Wolf had really been such a great teacher, why did Yuriko hate him so much? Flashback hit. Back when Yuriko was still Wolf's student, he told her flat out her magic wasn't built for battle. Told her that people from other worlds didn't need to fight the Dark Lord, just live a normal life. But Yuriko wasn't about that. She wanted to save everyone. At first, she loved training with him, but then some new girl from another world showed up. Wolf switched focus fast, leaving Yuriko in the dust. She kept training, hoping he'd look her way again, but he only had eyes for the other girl. Jealousy burned through her, and next thing she knew, her powers exploded. One day, she snapped, dragged the girl into darkness, and everything changed. Back in the present, Yuriko called off the skeletons. Everyone thought she was about to let them walk, but nah, she just had something worse up her sleeve. A massive monster tore through the temple walls, ready to end them all. Wolf shouted for everyone to run, but before the monster could move, Sensei strolled in like he was late for a damn appointment. Yuriko froze. She recognized him, but more than that, she recognized the older woman beside him, Hikari, her younger sister. Everyone else was lost, but Sensei spelled it out real quick. Hikari had always been sick as a kid, and Yuriko spent her childhood taking care of her. She had big dreams for high school, but instead, she was stuck at home, watching over her sister. The past was a wound Yuriko didn't want reopened. Not having it, she summoned the skeletons again, but Tama and the others jumped in, guarding Sensei. He just shrugged, saying he was a writer, cool to die before finishing her story. Hikari stepped forward, trying to reach her, but Yuriko's voice cut through the room like ice. She admitted she had always hated Hikari, hated that she stole her childhood. When she got sent to this new world, she thought she was finally free. But then Hikari showed up here too, taking Wolf's attention just like before. Yuriko snapped her fingers, sending the monster straight for Hikari, but Sensei stopped her cold, asked her what she really wanted. That set her off. She ordered the monster to tear him apart. The wolf shoved him out of the way, taking the hit himself. His body withered instantly. Sensei cursed him for interfering, saying he didn't belong in his damn story. Skeletons swarmed, striking Sensei, but he pushed forward anyway. Said he needed to understand Yuriko's feelings if he was going to write her story properly. Flashback hit again. Graduation day. Yuriko's father barely looked at her, all his attention on Hikari. She watched other girls laughing with their parents, feeling like a ghost. Right before heading to work, her father told her again to take care of Hikari. Instead, she put on her uniform and left for school. By the time she got home, her father was furious. Hikari's condition had worsened while she was gone. He slapped her across the face. She ran out, tears blinding her, and the next thing she knew, bam, truck. Next stop, New World. Back in the temple, Yuriko broke. Tears spilled down her face as she realized she'd been carrying all this pain alone. Hikari hugged her, whispering that she finally understood. Yuriko had suffered because of her. Sensei watched it all unfold and figured something out. Hikari probably lost all hope after Yuriko disappeared. Maybe that's why she got hit by a truck too. Maybe she had been chasing after her. In the New World, Hikari turned to Wolf, said she would become strong enough to defeat the Dark Lord, not for herself, but for Yuriko, so she could finally live a life that was truly her own. Sensei moved to send them both back to their original world. Right then, Hikari transformed, shrinking into her younger self. Everyone Yuriko had hurt healed. Yuriko stood before them all, shoulders heavy, eyes wet. She apologized, thanked Wolf for giving her a moment of youth one last time. Then in a flash, they were gone. Hikari woke up in her bed, staring at the ceiling. For a second, she wondered if it had all been a dream. Doran held the castle down while the enemy ran for their lives. The dwarves popped off, ready to call it a win, but he shut that down fast. No victory until Wolf came back. Sensei and the crew were about to dip when the ceiling straight up exploded. The fallen angel of misery strolled in like he owned the place, all smug, talking about wiping them out. Wolf hit him with a wind spell, but the guy didn't even flinch. Turns out, his armor made him immune to magic. Tora tried to pull some nonsense, turning him into a bus or something, but that flopped. Tama rushed in, going full beast mode with her ultimate move, but the fallen angel swatted it aside like a joke. Then he went for the kill. Nier wasn't having it. He blocked the attack so hard the fallen angel's sword straight up shattered. That got the angel's attention. He called Nier interesting, told him to get stronger, then dipped like a sore loser. The squad gave Nier his flowers for saving them. That night, everyone partied in the castle. Yishe was feeling good about the sisters getting their happy ending, but Wolf wasn't buying it. He figured the church just dragged them into this world for their own needs and called it fate. Meanwhile, Melos, Wolf's Femelos, straight up dumped him, leaving him looking like a sad puppy. Sensei tried to lift his spirits, then he spotted her, Sakchin. She was glad to see him, but he hit her with some real emo energy, inviting her to jump off the building with him to finish what they started. She shut that down quick, said he had changed, looked more alive. He denied it, swore he was still the same miserable wreck. Then his crew showed up, dragging Melos with them. Sakchin took one look at them and saw the truth. He had something worth living for now. She turned away, saying she couldn't stay in his life anymore. He called after her, but she was gone. Annette pieced it together. Sakchin was the girl he had been chasing all along. The next day, they hit up Rodos, the blacksmith guild master, who casually dropped that he had forged their weapons. Sensei, still wrecked over Sakchin, swallowed his pills and passed out. Nier asked about his sword, and Rodos told him straight it was too legendary for a rookie like him. Get stronger, then come back. Then Sensei, because he had zero self-preservation, jumped on some experimental death machine Rodos warned him about, said it wasn't adjusted yet, might kill him. Sensei didn't care, sped off like a lunatic while the gang scrambled after him. Meanwhile, the fallen angels linked up with Sakchin. She was in a rare good mood. When they asked about Sensei, she just smiled, saying he had the power to change everything and was still as incredible as ever. Sensei's crew caught up to a random villager who told them they were in the same town where the old hero had prepped before storming the Demon Lord's castle. He showed them a statue of the hero in action, but Tama pointed out that it looked like the hero was just running away. The villager explained that Sensei had crashed into it with his crazy machine. Then came the real warning. Sensei had sped off toward the Forbidden Land of Orange, the only place the hero had ever survived. According to the villager, he'd be back soon or never. Inside the Forbidden Land, Sensei dodged giant beasts and crashed straight into a portal. That's where he met the fairy queen, Oberus, who greeted him as the second human to ever reach her. Sensei, naturally, thought he had died and finally made it to paradise. The fairy twins, Alulu and Solulu, demanded that he bow to their queen. Oberus asked him a simple question: what mattered more, power or trust? But Sensei wasn't playing hero. He wanted out of life entirely. Solulu called him insane, but Oberus felt something on him. As she's blessing, she figured he might be the one to finally bring peace. She told him he'd reunite with his soulmate and told him to keep living. For once, Sensei actually listened. He thanked her, and she handed him a gift, staying to use it if he ever needed the fairy's help. Then boom, he got teleported back. His crew waited, thinking he was done for. Nier assumed Sakchin's rejection had finished him off, but then, crashing into the statue again like a madman, Sensei popped back into their lives, casually apologizing for making them worry. The villager lost his mind, furious that the statue got wrecked again. He blew a whistle, summoning Solulu, ordering her to fix it. She refused, but Oberus had her back, wishing her luck, which meant no choice but to do it. With that, Sensei and the squad left the castle, still chasing their fate. Everyone believed he would change the world, but no one knew if it would be for peace or pure chaos. Either way, the whole world was riding on his reckless, unhinged shoulders.